Violet Jessop. The story of Violet Jessop is just one example of the strange stories from history that are out there waiting to be discovered. Violet was born in Argentina to Irish immigrant parents in 1887 from the get-go. Violet's life was a constant game of survival, a pattern that continued well into her adulthood during the first years of her life. She contracted tuberculosis and was extremely unwell. The doctors warned her parents that it would likely take her life. However, Violet defied the odds and survived, going on to live a happy and healthy life. When Violet was just 16 years old, her father passed away and the family moved to England in hopes of having a better life. Catherine, Violet's mother, worked as a stewardess aboard commercial ships whilst Violet took care of her younger siblings. Violet admired her mother's profession, and after leaving school, she got a job as a stewardess, proudly following in her mother's footsteps. Little did Violet know that this job would take her on a whirlwind journey, lead to one of the greatest survival stories in history. In 1910, Violet began working on the RMS Olympic, something that she was extremely proud of, given that the ship was the largest civilian ship at the time. For the first year, everything went swimmingly. Violet enjoyed her job and was looking forward to the future. Then on September 20th, 1911, Violet's life was changed in an instant. On that day, the RMS Olympic crashed with the HMS Hawk in a freak accident. Luckily, no one was fatally injured, and the ship made it back to Southampton without sinking. This incident had shaken Violet. She refused to talk about it with anyone, and even declined to talk about it in her memoirs. She continued working on the RMS Olympic for another year. It appears that whilst the incident had shaken her, it had not put her off being a stewardess on a ship. Violet had already survived one boat crash. Surely she would not be so lucky a second time around. That's where you'd be wrong. On April 10th, 1912, Violet proudly boarded the RMS Titanic. She had no idea that her dream job was about to turn into a living nightmare. As we know, on April 14th, 1912, the RMS Titanic hit an iceberg and sank in the North Atlantic Ocean. In an unbelievable plot twist, Violet survived the sinking of the Titanic by jumping onto a lifeboat. This lifeboat was later found by search crews, and all of those aboard were taken to New York City. Shortly after arriving in New York, Violet went back home to Southampton, shaken but undeterred from sailing the seas. 4 years after the sinking of the Titanic, Violet joined the British Red Cross and worked on the HMHS Britannic, which had been converted from a commercial liner into a hospital ship during World War I. Mysteriously, the HMHS Britannic also sank on November 21st, 1916. Historians and scientists are still unsure as to what caused the event to happen. As the event unfolded, stewardesses, patients, and other staff members began jumping into lifeboats, desperately trying to survive. In her memoirs, she wrote, "The white of the ocean's medical world," dipped her head a little, then a little lower, and still lower. All the deck machinery fell into the sea like a child's toys. Then she took a fearful plunge, her stern rearing hundreds of feet into the air until with a final roar, she disappeared into the depths. Violet barely survived the sinking of the HMHS Britannic, and it was not until a year later that she discovered she had suffered a fractured skull. Even after being involved in 3 ship incidents, Violet continued to work as a stewardess aboard cruise liners and large ships. Many considered her the luckiest woman in the world, and she even picked up the nickname of Miss Unsinkable. Violet passed away in 1971 at the age of 83. While she is no longer with us, her story of survival lives on.